Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello there. Welcome to the program on this April day, 2017. It's the 26th, to be specific. I'm Lynn Cullen, going to be with you for about an hour or so, and you're welcome to take part. I don't have my little cheat sheet on the number. Let me see if I can remember it. You can give me a call at 412-200-5686. Hey! Applause, please. I did it. Wow. You can also email me at lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Ay. Again, I don't know where to start. I did enjoy Ivanka being booed in Germany. What's going on in national politics is so unbelievable. The stuff that's happening, any one story would be huge in normal times. These are not normal times. The goings-on in Congress, the heating up of the Russia White House investigation, the clear indication that General Flynn has broken the law and will spend time in jail, I would imagine, or sing like a canary and take down other people in the White House. I mean, ultimately, this thing is going to be incredible. It really will. I mean, the fact that this Chavez is decided to decamp from Washington, where he holds senior positions, to spend more time with his family, shows that he doesn't want to have anything to do with what's about to come down. He doesn't want to navigate it and ruin his future desired political accomplishments, starting with the governorship of Utah, which is what he's looking at next. And then, clearly, he has presidential ambitions. So everybody now is sort of trying to run for cover, fend for themselves. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get exceedingly ugly. So, I'm not sure where to start. Another bit of good news is Fox News is continuing to reel as employees continue to file suit against it. Now we've moved on from sexual harassment suits to racial discrimination suits. In fact, a class action suit joined by a number, I guess it's at this point 11 current and former employees at Fox, saying that the atmosphere there was abhorrent, intolerable, unlawful, and hostile. So that lawsuit has been filed in the Bronx. Why, I'm not exactly sure, but and it alleges all kinds of unbelievable things. I mean, really unbelievable things. There was something in it. Let me find it again. Where I said, "You're kidding me, right? This can't be right. Are you kidding?" A lot of this is pointing toward a woman at Fox whose name is Brandy. That's the last name, I believe. Diane Brandy. And a woman named Denise Collins, a human resources exec at Fox. Also involving a woman. These are all women who are being targeted this time, not men. Showing the vipers at Fox come in all genders. Some of the stuff alleged is just really, I mean, given that it's Fox, it's not, I guess, surprising anymore. But one that made me double take is the suit also contends, and this is not one of the big ones, but listen to this, also contends that Ms. Slater, for whom a lot of these folks in the suit worked, that Ms. Slater demanded that minority employees arm wrestle white female supervisors for her own entertainment. Yeah, Celine's over there like, what? What? Oh, my. She mocked how black employees pronounced words. She was, I mean, this woman sounds like Cruella de Vil. So that keeps a-happening. The suit contends that 21st Century Fox should probably be named 18th Century Fox, given the way that they treat women and minorities. Extraordinary. So, also, just staying away from the political for a second, another horrific event on Facebook Live. And why don't they just take that thing down? What purpose is served? I don't know. Unless they can, a man in Thailand killed his baby daughter on Facebook Live. Put a noose around her neck and threw her over the side of a building. And then pulled up her lifeless body. He then apparently killed himself, but that part he didn't show everybody. I mean, what boy, there are a lot of effed up people in this world. I mean, it's just extraordinary. And here's one. We see these all the time. If it's a story about a politico caught with pedophilia or something like that, what are the odds that that person is a Republican? Huge. Huge. I mean, unbelievably huge. I'm trying to think of all the sexual kinds of sordid sexual things. Invariably, there are Republicans who are family values Republicans. Here's the latest one. And it's not very satisfying in terms of explaining exactly what this jerk was up to. But he was a big Trump supporter, in fact, headed the Trump campaign in a county in Kentucky. This guy, I mean, I'm not going to go into detail. He's now been, he's handcuffed and has been charged with engaging in sex trafficking of a minor. a juvenile. And he's got all the proper, right-wing bona fides. He's a hell of a man, a Christian, all that kind of stuff. Family values up the wazoo. And he's selling little children into sex slavery, apparently. You can't make it up. He's a former judge as well, and a school board member. And it just... The allegation of sex trafficking occurred while Judge Nolan was serving as the chair of the Donald Trump campaign in Campbell County. It's one thing after another. You see these little stories and are reminded of the putrefaction of so much in our culture, and that these people are in positions of power and respect. Let's lighten things up with the obituary of the day. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he's dead. That would be J. Dickey. 77. He, too, was a Republican, conservative, member of Congress, representing Arkansas. He is remembered because he's the SOB who tacked on what's called a rider to a public health measure being a bill being passed by the House. And he stuck a little rider in there, and this is back in 1996, that took almost $3 million away from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Specifically took money that was earmarked for the study of the health effects of guns. Remember when you first heard, after one, who knows which horror, which mass gunslang, that we can't really argue the case because there is no data. We have not as a nation compiled the data that would be required to understand the problem. Stripped of emotion and just put down to numbers and, types of guns and legislation that is on the books, what impact it has had, a lot. And I say this just as yesterday I mentioned that our president signed off on the firing of our Surgeon General, a Surgeon General who had a lot of trouble getting through the Congress, getting through after his nomination, because he felt and was strongly. I'm sorry. I'm watching people at the bus stop, and it's back in the old studio. I couldn't see human beings, so I wasn't distracted. But I just love the human parade that goes on here. I'm sorry. So this is the. I forgot where I was. Oh, so you can't make arguments because nobody has any figures, any numbers, the kind of thing that money in 1996 was supposed to. And then, believe me, this got tightened up after that, where it was absolutely against the law to do any of this kind of research. So we want to thank Jay Dickey for being the first person to figure out that would really saddle any efforts to define our crazed gun love as a huge public safety issue. And that's the thought I'd forgotten, that the Surgeon General who was fired, that was his big issue, that gun violence in this country is one of the number one public health issues in the country. And that is heresy among Republicans. So the good thing I can tell you is that after this Jay Dickey, now deceased, was defeated, and he was defeated, interestingly, after he voted to impeach Bill Clinton, another Arkansas boy, because he represented the district that Bill Clinton was born in. And frankly, even though it was a Republican district, they sort of liked their native son there, and they knocked this guy out for voting to impeach Bill Clinton. But the reality is that Americans die from guns at about the same rate as Americans die from cars. And yet the federal government has seen fit to get involved in making cars safer so that more American lives would be saved. How is this not public health we're talking about? And so the difference between the Americans killed by cars and the Americans killed by guns is the American killed by cars is a number that has been going down, and killed by guns, going way up. The government spent $240 million a year on making, through legislation and regulation, making cars safer, right? From seat belts to airbags to highway dividers to minimum drinking ages, all that kind of stuff. And we know that there are similar actions that can be taken to make guns safer so they don't kill as many innocent people, often children, as they do. Safety locks, child-proof locks, fingerprint, all that kind of thing, waiting periods, all that kind of stuff, which is no-brainer stuff. But anybody advocating for it always came with no information. So their information could be shot down as anecdotal, not necessarily indicative of cause and effect. So that because of this SOB, now deceased, scientists appearing before a congressional committee cannot answer the most basic question they would be asked. What exactly would work, is the question, to prevent firearm injury and death? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, Senator, because we have never received any funding to look into any of this, and in fact have been prevented from collecting data and researching this. Way to go, Jay Dickey. Never mind that after he was out of office, he had a change of heart. I'm not sure which mass killing it was, but he finally said, geez, here's a quote from him. Research could have been done on gun violence without infringing on the rights of gun owners, in the same way that the highway industry continued its research without eliminating the automobile. We could have done this. We could have found a solution, he told NPR. And I think it's a shame that we haven't. What? Where's the apology in here? I don't see apology in here saying, what a shame that we haven't. You SOB! So the reality is, yeah, we're flying blind on this issue. We don't know whether a ban on assault weapons or large capacity magazines or limiting access to ammo would save lives, or would it make it riskier for people to go to a movie? We don't know how to effectively restrict access to firearms by those with serious mental illness. We don't know anything other than we're insane. It's a national psychosis. I am not going to talk about Donald Trump's huge, big, wondrous tax bill because it's mostly hot air at this point, and let's wait till it settles a little bit. And unsurprisingly, it's essentially what Republicans always do. They cut taxes for the richest and find no way to bring the resulting loss of revenue in. I mean, counter it. So they create these huge deficits. It's the Republicans who do that every time. I mean, an idiot, and I'm an idiot when it comes to numbers and economics, but I do understand that in order for government to work, government services to function, in order for us to sustain a military and highways and all that kind of stuff, we need money. Where does the money come from? Not bake sales. It comes out of the pockets of American taxpayers and corporate taxpayers. The corporations are always saying they pay too much, even though the tax code is written for them and always has been. The reason it's 7 million pages long is because it's filled with loopholes for specific companies, for specific industries. They've got more ways to avoid paying their fair share, and yet it's never enough. And so that's the big thing. We don't care. All of a sudden, they don't care about balancing a budget. Who cares when somebody's going to save me some taxes? It's nuts. It's really nuts. Well, it'll benefit Donald Trump. It'll benefit his lovely daughter, Ivanka. She's a lot like him. She does not have the self-awareness to understand that sitting on a panel with Angela Merkel and blanking on her name, that statuesque French woman who heads the International Monetary Fund, and the other women that were at this female summit, that she has no standing to be there amongst them. None, except her daddy grifted his way into the presidency. And anyone else, anyone with a modicum of self-awareness and or humility would have said, I'm not the person to represent the United States at this. I'm not. I'd be very uncomfortable putting myself on the same level as those women. And I mean, at one point she was even asked, what are your, a moderator said, we don't have a title of first daughter. For all I know, we don't either. What exactly does a first daughter do? And do you know, she said, I don't know. It's new to me, too. I'm trying to figure it out. Well, I guess, and helping her father embarrass the United States is one of the things she does. She gets away with a lot of this crap. You know why? Because she's beautiful. You look at that beautiful face, and she talks like women learn how to talk. She talks like this. Even when she's angry, and you can tell she's angry, she will say, "My father was so supportive of me." It's always this sort of quiet, whispery voice. And good God Almighty, I just want to cringe. The family of friggin' grifters has taken over our country, aided and abetted by the despicable Republican Party. Okay, what do we got here? Dorothea writes, governing by executive order is nothing more than ruling by edict. This is how kings and dictators rule their nations. Regardless of who's in the White House, I've never been comfortable with executive orders. And now we have Trump ready to push through dozens of executive orders prior to his 100th day, including the expansion of oil drilling in the Pacific. Yes! Yes! Much of the damage he is doing through executive order is damage to our environment. You don't even want to look. Executive orders, Dorothea writes, should be reserved for important stuff. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, for instance, was an executive order. Well, Barack Obama did a lot of executive orders, too, as other presidents have before him. But he did them because he was stymied. The Congress would not do its job, so he had no legislature. He had no way to get anything done unless he just took it on himself. But when it's your guy doing the executive orders, you don't mind it as much. Then the other guy comes in and, whoa. You know what Trump's doing a lot in his executive orders are wiping out the executive orders of Obama. So it's as if Obama never did them. Barbara writes, I heard a pundit comment that Ivanka just isn't a good ambassador for the United States and the president in countries that have hardcore democracies. Likely she would do better in developing countries where they are more accepting of nepotism. Yeah, I mean, in Europe, no. They mocked her. They laughed. They jeered. Maybe that kind of reception will keep her from saying yes to Daddy the next time he sends her off. But I wonder, between her and her husband, I don't think Donald Trump really trusts anybody else in that White House. I think that's it. His daughter and his son-in-law. That's it. Everybody else would be suspect, and that's also the way dictators operate. Blood. 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 And Deb says, after listening yesterday when you read Trump's tweet about Mexico paying for the wall sooner, later, whatever. I couldn't make out what he meant. It's true. It meant nothing. It was like he completely nullified within 3 words what he had said prior to those 3. It was unbelievable. I mean, it was gibberish. But it put Deb in mind of this old quotation I shall now read. I come before you to stand behind you and tell you something I know nothing about this Thursday, which is Good Friday. There will be a mother's meeting for fathers only. Admission is free, pay at the door, pull up a seat and sit on the floor. Thank you for your unkind attention. Yeah, but okay, that's sort of the same, same ballpark. Indeed. So, oh God. So this other thing I came upon. Oh, I want to tell you this. Wait a minute. I sort of got behind in my reading today because I had an 8 o'clock meeting that I had to attend to, an ACLU meeting. And I got up 2 hours earlier than I normally do, but I still didn't manage to get everything done. But remember yesterday when I said I feared that in the French election, that now that it's boiled down to 2, this centrist guy who used to be a hedge fund manager and who just developed his own party, has never been in politics, and now either he is going to be the president of France in a few weeks, or a Nazi's going to be the president of France in a few weeks, Marine Le Pen. Those are the 2 that are running now. And I said yesterday, here's my fear. My fear is exactly what happened here. That sore losers, because there were a lot of other candidates. There was the Socialist Party, which of the current president, which just went down in flames. There was a centrist left party that didn't do much of anything. There was a communist party that didn't do much of anything. There were a lot of, and there was another party founded by a specific guy. I guess that's what you do over there. And he is a lefty as well. His name is Mélenchon. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. And here's the thing now. You got the fascist and you got the moderate. The self-righteous lefties, I said, if they don't vote for the moderate, they are essentially voting for the fascist. And it worried me that could happen. She could get in if enough principled, self-righteous people who didn't like the moderate, and understandably, he's an unknown quantity, blah, 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 lots of things. But you know that not voting for him is voting for her. You know that. Anybody willing to risk turning France over to the fascists is, to me, the lowest of the low. And guess what? It appears that this lefty, the guy who ran and lost, is petulantly refusing to do what all the other candidates did, which is immediately endorse the non-fascist. He won't do it. And a lot of other folks, in fact, will take his stance and sit it out. They'll say, okay, he couldn't do it. I ain't doing it either. So France is setting up a dynamic, much like when Hillary defeated Bernie, and a lot of his supporters refused to vote for her. Sat it out, voted for the loathsome Jill Stein, voted for somebody else, I don't know. And look what you get. You got Donald Trump. My rage at people who do this is, it's been on display ever since the Nader folks did what they did to us and gave us George W. and the Iraq War and everything that's happened since. Man, you principled types, you're really a piece of work, aren't you? I guess you sleep at night, though, don't you? Because your principles are intact, even as the nation goes down the effing tubes. Joe Ellen says, sorry, I'm off topic. My husband and I spent a long weekend visiting our son in Chicago. We decided to drive this time. Going across the Ohio Turnpike, my husband slowed down when he saw a white SUV in the median, thinking it was a speed trap. As we passed, on the side of the SUV, I saw it said, ICE, Border Patrol and Protection. Joe Ellen says, what? The middle of Ohio? Protecting Ohio from what? Invaders from where? I'd never seen an ICE vehicle in my life. I've lived in Texas, Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, but the only time I ever saw an immigration official was entering the United States. No, I've seen them. I have seen them. You know, Trump wants to hire another 5,000 of them. They're having trouble getting anywhere near that. You know why? These people that want to get in on this action, they can't pass a rather simple test. Now, it used to be they had to pass a polygraph test. Just last week, they lifted that requirement. You can now become an ICE officer without passing a polygraph test because 2/3 of the people applying were flunking the polygraph test. So what do? You throw out the polygraph test. What a fine bunch we're going to have of these newly minted 5,000, as he shrinks government, 5,000 immigration agents, ripping families apart, knocking doors down. Peter says about Ivanka, the thing is, she can't divorce his dad. And the thing is that Ivanka can't divorce his dad. Huh? Her dad? And if she could... Oh, you meant her dad. And if she could, her dad would date her. Yeah, clearly. We've all seen pictures where there's a little too much. Yeah. There's some creepy photos from when she was younger and before she was married with him. Really creepy. And didn't he say of her once that wasn't she a nice piece of ass? Did he say that? Yeah. I think he did, yes. Can you imagine a father saying that? Hey. Oh, dear, Milt, I will do this later because I just can't. Milton, you're something, Milton. You're like calling the Carnegie Library and it just comes right through. He has this huge long list of all the executive orders that Trump has done, which are destroying the environment. I'll look at it later. Maybe boil it down a little bit. Norma says, I'm reminded of a comedian who responded to a self-righteous liberal Bernie or bust voter who complained, why should I always have to vote for the lesser of two evils? And he screamed back, because you want less evil. The lesser of two evils leaves you with less evil. I have always voted for the lesser of two evils. Anyone sitting around waiting for perfection to walk in the door is out of their cotton-picking minds. Man, Trump did a really good speech about the Holocaust the other day. He read every word that someone had written for him. And it was so un-Trump-like. It's so odd to hear him say things that you know he would never say. Now, when other presidents would read speeches that speechwriters wrote for them, there wasn't so much of a disconnect. The Bushes, there was some disconnect there too. But, my God. Anyone who thinks, he's talking about anti-Semites have no place here and no place there. I'm thinking, your friggin' main advisor's an anti-Semite. You got that Gorka guy who is a friggin' Hungarian fascist in your White House. He's an anti-Semite. What the are you talking about? But he read the speech real good. So get this. With this wonderful Congress's inability to do a goddamn thing. They are now desperately trying to do a million big things in the next few days so that Trump cannot be the most horrific president at this point in his tenure in American history. And one of the things they had hoped to do, of course, is repeal and replace, the Affordable Care Act, known as Obamacare. Wow. The Washington Post has this report how repealing Obamacare could well be a violation of international law. It's not just that it might be cruel and immoral and unconscionable to take health insurance away from tens of millions of Americans, but it turns out that the United Nations, an office, the Office of the UN High Commissioner on Human Rights, sent an urgent appeal, a confidential 5-page letter to the State Department a few weeks back, actually a month back, warning that the UN had serious concerns about the prospective loss of health coverage for almost 30 million people, which would violate a number of international treaties that the United States signed on to. Treaties that said that securing health care, I'll read Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which we signed off on, establishes everyone's right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being, including food, medical care, and necessary social services. We signed that. We've been in violation of it forever, except in the few years that Obamacare. And even then we were, because it didn't cover absolutely everybody. So anyway, the UN sends us the State Department and specifically tells the State Department to please share the letter with the congressional heads, the majority and minority parties. So when the Washington Post got in touch with McConnell and Paul Ryan and Schumer and Pelosi, those would be the four, asking them about their take on this UN thing, saying that we would be in violation of international law, they said, we don't know what you're talking about. We never got it. So the State Department, when it got it, deep-sixed it. They didn't do a damn thing with it. Some employee leaked it. This is why they hate the leaks. Some employee saw it and leaked it. So, Not that it changes anything, but I just thought that interesting of how we stack up in terms of caring for our own people. The very way that the United States of America offers medical availability and health insurance to its people would be deemed by the United Nations to be a violation of international law. Moral law, in fact. Beth writes, don't you find it curious that not one media outlet during the campaign or now has tried to get in touch with one of Trump's ex-wives? My bet is they have. My bet is they won't talk. First of all, why would they talk when, he is such a punitive, vengeful creep. I just think for their own self-interest and the self-interest of their children, they would probably lay low. Beth says, we have heard nothing from Ivana or Marla. The only other modern-day president who had been divorced was Ronald Reagan, and we always heard about Jane Wyman. Yeah, we might have heard about her, but she never said much anything either. I'm sure both women, that'd be ex-Trumps, have some non-disclosure clause in their divorce settlements, but just shocked that some reporter hasn't dug up something. Absolutely. You bet they do have you bet. They're seriously hemmed in, and I bet there'd be punitive things. Marla speaks out, then her lovely daughter, what's her name? What's that other one's name?
Tiffany.
Who? Tiffany. Oh, that's right. Tiffany might be, written out of the will. Oh, dear. So I was under the impression that Pittsburgh was a sanctuary city. We're not. Weren't you under that impression? Well, I guess it takes more than having the city council say, I guess. I don't know. Because there's a graphic in the Post today that shows the sanctuary cities in the country, and the only action in Pennsylvania is over in the east at Philly. It's not a legal term. It's a political term. I think in some respects we are, I believe, a sanctuary city because our mayor and the city council have essentially said that we're not cooperating with ICE. And it's great to see that another Trump executive order bumped into the Constitution just yesterday, I guess it was, right? That a federal judge in San Francisco has temporarily halted the Trump administration's threat to hold federal funding from cities that refuse to cooperate with their Gestapo, the ICE agents. And the judge in that case said the lawsuits that he saw filed against it by the cities of San Francisco and Santa Clara County, he felt had a very strong case and likely to succeed. And then he said this: the threat of the executive order and the uncertainty it is causing impermissibly interferes with the county's ability to operate, to provide key services, to plan for the future, to budget. Right. How do you make a budget up if you don't know if the feds are going to yank a few $1 million from under you because you didn't help them deport some poor, helpless soul they were targeting? So there you go again. And the reality is, if the feds ever need to detain a serious criminal, they can obtain a criminal warrant. The mayor of San Francisco said, if we were given a criminal warrant, we would honor it as we always have. But the thing is, these immigration things, this is a civil thing. It's not criminal. And they're saying, we're not going to do it. In fact, it makes our cities less safe. Because it takes a whole hunk of our population and sends them underground, puts them in a position where they will not report crime or aid in the apprehension of criminals. I mean, they're just under the radar, living in fear, just like the Jews did in Germany, waiting for that knock on the door in the middle of the night, waiting for the boots on the staircase. Man. So now that Trump has decided that China's a good guy, because he really liked their president and his wife, he had a good time with them, eating steak and chocolate cake and telling the Chinese guy while he's eating his cake, hey, we just bombed the hell out of... he makes all these decisions, says all this stuff. He's always eating. Do you notice that? It's at a dinner. I think he eats steak 10 times a week. He's, he gets no exercise. I assure you, golf is not exercise. Incredible. So now that Trump is playing nice with China, he has to have somebody else to, distract us with who's hurting us. Now that he's decided China's not a currency manipulator and they're wonderful and he hasn't done anything to change any trade agreements with them or anything, he's gone after Canada. Did you see that? He's gone after Canada. It's like I feel like Canada's like our sibling. He said this. People don't realize Canada's been very rough on the United States. Everyone thinks of Canada being wonderful and civil, but they've outsmarted our politicians for many years, and you got to understand that. So this has to do with lumber and milk and trade. So his Commerce Department has stuck a huge tariff on lumber coming in from Canada to the United States, which, by the way, guys, is going to raise the cost of any building going on here. If somebody was planning on building a house and they got a quote from a contractor, I don't know if that's going to hold because this tariff is pretty sizable. Much of our lumber comes from softwood lumber comes from Canada. Oh, tariffs up to 24%. Yeah. And the last time such a tariff, by the way, was imposed by the United States was back in 2001. And Canada took that to the World Trade Organization. And the World Trade Organization said, this is unfair. And I guess it was rolled back. So who knows? I don't know. Now Canada is the enemy. Deb says, I listened to Trump speaking on the Holocaust yesterday. Oh, yeah. I heard it too. And he kept pronouncing Nazi as Nazi. He did the whole time. He kept saying, the Nazis. Does anybody... I was thinking, is that a pronunciation that is Nazi?
I've heard Nazi.
You've heard Nazi? But there's always like that T sound in front of the Z. I heard some of it, and I heard the Nazi, and I thought, what the... What do you mean Nazi? Like you're not annoying enough, even as you're reading this speech that is not, horrible. You have to say Nazi like you never saw the word before? Oh. Okay, Milton, always on the spot, says, this is what Peduto said, our mayor, on Sanctuary City status. Quote, let's be clear. The president's executive order will not make us safer. It will not advance the principles upon which our nation and our cities were founded. It will further divide us as a city and as a nation. And Peduto said that Pittsburgh, quote, will resist any attempt to commandeer our local law enforcement officers into a national deportation army. So that makes us currently, I guess, a sanctuary city. I would think. Heads up for something that could go down tomorrow, and that is theater, street theater. And it won't be pretty. This will be at Berkeley. And Ann Coulter, the loathsome Ann Coulter, is going to give a speech there sometime in the afternoon. Even the people who supposedly invited her to speak don't know what time she's showing up. But she's going to come in with her own security detail, and she's going to give a speech in a public plaza at Berkeley, which was the site of all of that free speech movement stuff going on in the 60s. It's called, and I always pronounced it Sproul Plaza. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but that name rings a bell in my head way, way back, because that's where the free speech movement really got underway in the 60s. And Ann Coulter is going to give her speech there tomorrow afternoon, and the university is totally flipped out because they have no way of securing her. They asked that she please do it in a building, in an auditorium, where they could be assured, they could have metal detectors, they could, watch people as they walked in, keep things contained and under some measure of control. And the chancellor of the university says, there is no way. He says, if somebody brings weapons, there is no way we can block off this site or screen them. We have no control. The challenges are immense. So great, Ann. Way to go. Get yourself on TV like you wanna. Isn't she brave? Isn't she brave that she's doing that? Wow. And then you've got lunatics from the right and the left that congregate in this place, and they get violent. There've been two bad violent situations there. One with that jerk Breitbart guy, Milo, whatever his name was. And the potential for violence, bad violence, is really there. So just wanted to direct your attention to that. Maybe coming up in tomorrow's news. Okay, I guess that does it. Thank you very much. Appreciate you spending any time with me at all. And I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good day.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.